It's time for some Christmas Amaryllis. Hi, it's Therese from Lostinpaper and I'm so excited. It's time for a new Ellen Hutson release, and today we have a new Mondo flower, and the Mondo flowers are always amazing, and this one's called Mondo Amaryllis. And it's a large floral design, but it comes with some really great sentiments, and they're holiday themed. So it's absolutely beautiful. I decided to do some Copic colouring today. I've stamped out my image on some neenah 80-pound cardstock, and I did use my Misty to do this, my original size Misty, because I did actually stamp out the image twice. And I used some Memento Tuxedo Black, and I've just chosen some colours that actually what I thought went really well with a theme of colours that Ellen Hutson has chosen. And I have based all of my cards from this release along this same colour theme. So I have two cards to share with you today. To see the second card, head through the link in the description below, and then you can also find out more about the release, and I'll have all the links there. And also I have a second video and two more cards to share coming up real soon, so keep an eye out for that. And I did keep the same colour theme. The next one's very different to this one. Now here I'm just quickly sharing with you the colouring of one of the flowers. I did actually stamp and colour this image twice, and I have most of the lids off to the side as I'm colouring, but if you do miss any of the colours, don't forget that I do list every single colour that I use at my blog, so you can find those details there as well. I did keep it fairly simple, the colouring. I just did the shading on the inside portion of the petals and then blended it out with the lighter colour. And then I usually like to come in after I've done my main portion of colouring and add some shading just with, and today I've used the T2. And I find this is a great way to stretch your Copic markers if you don't have all the different hues of a colour and you want to add some depth. It's a really easy way to add that without having to buy a lot of extra colours. And if you do want to actually add some shading and you don't have the exact group of colours in that particular family, try another colour. That's what I've done here. I've grabbed a totally different coloured green and from a different family of greens and used that to add depth and dimension to the leaves, and that worked really well. And here I'm just coming in with the T2, like I said, on the flower petals. And the good thing about using a grey to do the shading is it actually is compatible and works with all the different colour families. So I'm using my Misty to restamp the image with some obsidian black. It's a nice dark black pigment ink just to add those details back into the flower after I've been colouring it. And I really like the way that this really makes the lines pop. I then did use the coordinating die to cut the images out after I'd coloured both of them. I thought it'd be fun now to create my own watercolour background, and I've got the watercolour palette from Altenew, and I'm picking some colours from the similar family and using some Bristol Smooth cardstock and just adding colour directly to that with a bit of water, either diluting it or adding it straight from the palette, depending what there was no rhyme nor reason here. And I just wanted this card to be really quite busy, and I knew that the colours were going to dry a little bit lighter, so I did make sure to come in with lots of sort of bold colours at the end and then set that aside to dry. So I've got the painted stripes stamp set now, and I've grabbed one of the stripes and using my Fiskars stamp press to add some bold black stripes along this panel that I created, and I just am eyeballing it. It doesn't need to be perfect. The flowers are going to be taking up the majority of space on this cardstock anyway. If it doesn't stamp perfectly, although the Bristol Smooth is smooth, it actually stamps pretty well, and the Obsidian does stamp amazing. Just in case I haven't mentioned that before, you can actually come in with a black marker and retouch up any areas that didn't stamp perfectly. Now these are the sentiments I was telling you about. How cool is the font in these? You can actually make it your own by colouring it any colour that you want. So what I decided to do was make it two-tone. So it's kind of an ombre sentiment, and I've got the darker colour at the bottom there. And I used the same colours that I did use in the flower. And I've cut that down. So I did actually stamp this with some Memento Tuxedo Black because I knew I was going to be using the Copic markers. And then I have cut the panel down so it's just smaller than my card front. And I've popped up both of these flowers that I die cut out. I only used one layer of foam squares on the lower level of flowers, and on the other one I've actually popped it up with 2 layers of foam squares just to make sure it's further off the card. Flip it over and cut away the excess leaves there, but I did decide to leave the petals on the flowers coming off the sides. I used some 1/2 inch Be Creative tape because this is a watercolour panel. It wasn't particularly warped though, I just wanted to make sure it didn't move. And then I actually popped up the sentiment with some foam squares as well, and then decided to come in with some of the Ellen Hutson. They're the clear droplets, and what I really like about these is the varying sizes that come in the packet. There's some really small ones, right up to the, like, there'd be about 6 or 7 millimeter one in there. It's great. I love it. And I just used some matte medium to hold them in place, so they're not going anywhere. So if you like this video, please like it. If you haven't already, I would love it if you'd subscribe to my YouTube channel. I appreciate every visit here and read all your comments, and look forward to seeing you here again real soon. Till then, happy paper crafting. Bye.